Since the 1960s, carbohydrate consumption has been established for optimizing endurance performance. In general, aerobic endurance is directly related to the individual's starting muscle glycogen stores, and strenuous exercise cannot be maintained once these stores are depleted. For this reason, many protocols exist, particularly for a race or competition day, to maximize pre-exercise glycogen stores. You might recognize the term carbohydrate loading. However, there is also a lot of attention around training in a glycogen deplete state, so low pre-exercise muscle glycogen stores. This video will assess the cellular and performance effects of an elite athlete and a recreationally active individual in response to fasted training. Firstly, let's look at the potential cellular adaptations and how this might improve fitness and performance. Certain physiological artifacts are validated biomarkers of endurance performance. For example, the number of mitochondria that you have in your tissue. Through correct training, you can increase the mitochondrial content in your working muscles, called mitochondrial biogenesis. And an endurance-trained athlete will have and seek a high mitochondrial density in their working muscles. As well as this, endurance-trained individuals will have and seek high levels of key oxidative cellular enzymes. In theory, endurance training in a low carbohydrate availability, which can be caused through fasted training, will increase both mitochondrial biogenesis and the expression of key oxidative cellular enzymes. And this is to a greater extent than if the individual endurance trained with sufficient or excess muscle glycogen stores. Unless you studied physiology, that might sound a little chewy, so I'm going to now express it in a simpler way. If you let the glycogen stores in your muscles run low, which can be achieved through several hours of fasting or through a heavy previous exercise session in that day, then your body is stressed in an extreme way. The advantage for this is the increased cellular and physiological adaptations in the recovery hours that follow training. In theory, you get a better adaptive endurance response than you would if you were all fueled up before you started. Whilst this is good in theory, what about in practice? Well, for the elite athlete that is already highly trained with high levels of mitochondria and high oxidative cellular enzymes, the additional stimulus of training in a low carbohydrate availability doesn't tend to elicit a greater cellular or performance benefit. Exercise alone on the level which an elite athlete would train is enough of a stimulus to trigger maximal physiological and cellular adaptations. Now, for the recreationally active participant, the story is a little different. Probably because these individuals have so much potential to increase their cardiovascular fitness, physiology, and performance. Studies have shown an increased benefit for training in a low carbohydrate availability. So, endurance training will improve their cellular and physiological biochemistry, and endurance training in a low carbohydrate availability will improve this even more. So, does this mean as a recreationally active participant that you should complete all of your training fasted? As alluded to at the start of this video, training intensity can be negatively affected when in a low glycogen availability. If you're completing a high intensity workout above lactate threshold or in the red zone for effort, like HIIT, boxing or spin, starting with a low muscle glycogen store will likely impair your performance. This video looked at the performance benefits for fasted training or training in a low carbohydrate state. If you're an elite individual, then further research is needed to justify an additional benefit to fasted training above that from exercise alone, which you'll probably already be doing. However, if you are a recreational athlete, then completing your endurance sessions in a fasted state might improve your fitness to a greater extent. But be aware, if you want to maintain intensity and performance at competition or in a HIIT workout, then be sure to fuel up beforehand.